Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday night edition of Friday Night Podcast. I'm here with the Reverend Ed Boyle. Tonight, we're going to continue our D4 opening series, and tonight's emphasis is going to be the attack on F7. So we have 5 games here we're going to go through, and we're going to talk our way through these. All these games were played at tournaments. We're not going to go through all the individuals who played them, but these were tournament games that have been played sometime within the past 10 to 15 years. So Ed, glad to have you here.
Thank you, Jim. It's glad to be back.
Okay, so we're going to start out with a D4 opening here, get our focus on the screen properly, and move forward. And so these are all pretty standard book moves here, right, Ed?
Yes. Well, they're starting to change a little bit now. What I did is I just kept looking for themes from big database on the F7 attacks.
Right. So this knight to F3, and then this is where this is a big mistake, because what happens here is he's going to strand the queen right there. The king has got to take, or he's got to take the bishop, and then of course you win the queen on this one, right?
That is correct. Yes.
So we'll go back through that again real quickly. So the idea is don't get too greedy about taking these pawns right here, because you're gonna end up getting a queen stranded here. So that's our first example.
This theme will show many times in your Queen's Gambit accepted once they pull that pawn away.
Yeah.
So at some point, Black has to play E6, which is pawn to King 3,
right,
and block that bishop off from that square.
Okay, let's go to our second example we have here. We have D4, D5, and C4. So I'm noticing that in all these instances, it's the Queen's Gambit accepted here.
That is correct. That was the theme that we were starting to play with the Queen's Gambit.
Right. So we have a knight to F3. Now he brings knight to F6.
Yeah. Knight to F3 is actually the number one move. E3 is usually next in some order. Okay.
Right.
The main order is the way that this game is.
Right. So now he looks like he's trying to protect that pawn, which we've seen that before, and that's not a good idea. And immediately we push the A4, right?
That's correct, yes.
So now he's going to attack these pawns, and I think, what do we got here? We got the same idea we had before?
Yes, we do.
It's the same thing. And again, he strands the queen down there. So that's not a very good idea.
No, and it all comes from moving that black pawn off that was at D4. You had the C4, if you watch, the pawn goes from C7 to C5, takes off the queen pawn, and then takes off the king pawn, and they just get greedy, just thinking I can keep taking pawns, and I'm going to play pawn takes pawn check or something.
Right.
But in the meantime, you lose your queen.
Hey, when that happens. Let's go to our third game then. We've got a D4 opening here.
Right. Now, this line is not a sack on F7, but it does allow the attack because of the pawn at F7 is missing.
So what are we looking at here? He plays this up.
Going back a little bit on the E4, okay, this is my third different move that we will look at.
Okay.
Now, still, if Black just moves fast and doesn't look, this is what you're going to get hit with.
So we have knight to F3. He takes there. He takes there.
Okay, now we are still in book, believe it or not.
So what do you want me to play here? The bishop takes D2 line or the bishop to E7?
The book line is bishop takes at D2. Let's just show you the correct moves first.
Okay.
On that. Okay, and this is the correct line where Black tries to hang on to the pawn, but that's not going with the theme. What if Black decides he does not want to trade the bishops off and plays the bishop back instead?
Then you not bring the queen up. I mean, excuse me, the knight up to E5, and you have the double attack on that F7 again.
Right. Again, we now have another attack, so he blocks the attack off. But the pawn comes up here, and you have a winning game now. Okay, the knight takes pawn does not work because if you play knight takes pawn,
right? I'm sorry. Let me play that.
If you play knight takes pawn, he just plays there, attacks the queen.
I see. Right.
Then the queen has to retreat someplace.
I see.
And the rook can move out.
Okay.
But on the other hand, if you just retreat the queen after the check, retreat the queen
and attack the e pawn.
You're attacking the E pawn now in the center of the board, and you have the double attack with knight takes at G6.
I got you.
And that'll win the rook.
I see. Okay, cool. Well, let's go up to our next game here.
Okay.
This is game number 4, and we have all book moves here. D4. Oops, excuse me. Let me get my D4, D5, C4, D takes C4, knight to F3, C5, and we're beginning to see the same theme over and over again.
In this point, though, notice that black plays E6 on move 5.
Right.
And that blocks the bishop block.
Right.
But there's a slight little problem. Now, this is played between two grandmasters, or two men who would eventually become grandmasters, or should have been, back before they had that title. At this point, White notices that we have a bishop that's hanging off on G4 by itself, and it's not defended.
Right.
So he does play the check here. The knight comes up, and then black plays this, and this is all book. All right.
Okay.
Now the correct move is you still have the bishop just hanging there. So the correct move is knight to F7, and that protects the bishop.
Right.
All right. The black player Gunsberg.
You mean knight to F6?
Knight to F6, correct.
Which the one on F8? I mean, one on G8.
It has to be a G8 because the other one is pinned to the king.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Now Gunsberg, who is a strong grandmaster, he actually won a major international tournament 17 years before this game took place.
Right.
What he did is he had looked at the bishop and said, "Well, I'm going to try to develop the knight somewhere else. So let me just move the bishop out of the way, and I'm going to attack that diagonal."
Well, this is a problem though, because if the queen takes, then what happens is if the queen takes here, then you get this bishop pin right there.
That is correct.
And that's
so
all over.
The piece is gone. He can't take the piece back.
Yep.
Because then he drops the queen.
That's it.
Now,
Okay.
Part of this, though, came from, now on this game, go back to move 7. And if we take a look, part of it happens to come from after knight to E5. There is also, again, the attack at F7.
Right.
And the bishop is lined up using an X-ray vision on the bishop. The bishop is also aimed at F7.
Right. Okay. Let's go on to our last game here. Take a look at this. So we won't say which French women's champion got clobbered in this one. We'll just say that she did.
A French women's champion gets whacked in 9 moves. This game goes back to the pod broadcast of number 2 that we have done, of trying to hang on to the pawn, and the theme of this podcast of the attack at F7. Now, black is actually an international master and is one of the best women players in the 1990s, and this is the theme here.
So he attacks the pawn, he protects, and now that knight's hitting there. He's going back, he's got a double attack on that pawn now, so he tries to protect with the bishop again.
Right.
Right?
And she overprotects on C4. The knight comes out to attacks the defender.
Trades off his only developed piece. And now we have an attack on the queen. So the queen has a choice. She can either take at D4 here, which is probably not a good idea because it just drops a piece over there, right?
That's correct, yes.
Or the other choice that was there was to play this.
Queen at G5 to protect that knight.
Now he gets the pawn.
Now, on this situation, Houston, she basically has a problem. That we have a drunk, not a drunk, but an overloaded queen. The queen is overloaded.
Right.
That knight is being attacked at
Okay.
A5. The queen is being attacked by the bishop. And as the yellow shows, that there are no squares for the queen to go to
Right.
to protect that knight. So when the
Okay.
queen drops back, the knight takes off. The knight is gone.
Well, that's great. Thanks, Ed. We appreciate you researching these games for us again. If you want to come over and watch us, we're over at 81st and Mingo at the Starbucks, and we do this every Monday night when we're in town. And if you want to come by and watch us, we're glad to have you. So thanks again for coming, and happy chess to all.